the Paycheck Protection Program, the Payroll Protection Program, sometimes the Small Business Interruption Loans. If you are a small business, you're going to be interested in this. I'm Isaac Carr with CCSK Law, and I'm here to talk to you today more detailed, though I've blogged on this before, about how the SBA and the federal government is coming to help with smaller businesses to be able to get through this time when the COVID-19 or the coronavirus is causing, has had the government to ask businesses to shut down, sometimes require the businesses to shut down, and what the businesses must do during that time in order to survive. There's some great opportunities out there, and I'm here to talk to you about some of those today. First, if you've already started the process with an SBA loan, you are not applying for the Payroll Protection Program, what I'm going to be calling the PPP loans. You have not applied for one of those. Right now, what is available is this SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loans. Those are an actual loans that have no forgiveness provision, unlike the PPP that you've been hearing about. So I want to be clear that if you've started the process on something, it has not been the PPP program. There is no loan forgiveness. You have started out with the Economic Injury Disaster Relief Program that the SBA already has. And I'm here to tell you why the PPP is going to be better than that. Why you want to actually apply for this PPP rather than the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loans. Now, I'll tell you that under the PPP, you cannot apply for the same monies for both programs. So it's either going to be the Economic Injury Disaster Loan or the PPP if you're using those funds to pay for payroll. I'm not saying you can't do both, but you can't use funds for the same expense. You can't submit for both. All right. This is an incredibly important part of this. Banks should be just handing out the money. It is run through the bank. This isn't going to be running through an online program unless the banks get too overwhelmed. The SBA might consider to do something like this. But fundamentally, this is going to be run through any bank that is insured by the FDIC. If there is any bank that gives you trouble while you're trying to apply for these loans, just look at another bank. All right, I'm going to be straight with you. This should be handing out cash. They've taken out the requirement for creditworthiness. They've taken out collateral. They've taken out any type of personal guarantee. This is going to be extremely straightforward to apply for. Easy application. Most, if not all, fees should be waived, and you should get the funds within 1 to 3 days. All right, this is something that you want to go after if you have had any type of economic injury because of what's been going on, which is a lot of businesses. All right, now, where am I getting this information from? I'm getting it straight from the text of the bill. I put it on the blogs on our website. You can visit it. I'll put the blog in the comments below. Visit our website. You can check out the text of the bill yourself. But I'm an attorney here to interpret a little bit of this to help you through this process during these times. All right, let's go into some questions that people have been asking me. Isaac, is there a provision for new hires that have not been previously been on payroll or have been functioning underneath the business? I'm going to start with how this works, all right, because it's not an employee, I'm not getting funds to pay for Sarah, the receptionist, and then if Sarah, the receptionist, is just started last month, I'm not going to have funds for her. That's not how this works. I'm going to explain how it works. There's two parts to this that you need to understand. First one, how much do you qualify for? And then the second step is what can you spend it on that's going to be considered forgivable. First, how much do you qualify for? All right, you're going to take the last 12 months of your payroll and payroll-related expenses. Payroll-related expenses include your payroll taxes, any matching programs that you have, health insurance. Those are all considered payroll and payroll-related costs. You're going to take the last 12 months, and you're going to take the total of that and divide it by 12 to get a monthly average. So you take that 1 month average, multiply it by 2.5, and at that point, you have now got the amount that you can qualify for. If those total amounts over the past 12 months equal $100,000, all right, or I'll make this a little bit easier, $120,000. Divide that by 12, you get $10,000. That's at $10,000 per month. Multiply that by 2.5, you're looking at $25,000 is what you can apply for to get those loans. That's step one. All right, boom. We're going to put that aside because you've now gotten $25,000 into your bank account that you can now spend on business expenses. And any of those expenses that are considered qualified expenses will then convert from that loan into a forgivable, essentially a forgivable loan, a grant, free money. That's what this will convert into for any that you spend on qualified expenses. What's qualified expense? All right, qualified expense is going to be anything for payroll, rent, utilities, interests. These costs are going to be things that if you spend it on this, it becomes forgivable. If I spend all $25,000 on paying my staff, paying myself, paying for rent, and paying for utilities over the next few months, at that point, it's all forgiven, all of it. If I only spend $25,000, I take five, or if I only spend $20,000, I take $5,000 of that. I'm going to go buy a new sign. Doesn't qualify. That is still, you can still use that money, but it's not going to be forgiven. That $5,000 that I spent on that sign will be considered a loan. All right, it's going to be right around 4% interest, and over a long term, it's going to be handled on a case-by-case basis, depending on your financial condition. But that point, the $20,000 that I did spend on qualified expenses will be forgiven. All right, that's right. No legal mumbo jumbo, straight from the talk. Thank you, Lindsay. So to answer this question, again, the question was, all right, I have a new hire. Can I pay for this new hire? Yes, you can pay for the new hire. But here's the situation. If you hired that new person in February as a brand new position, well, then your past 12 months just won't count that payroll, right? Because you only paid for that person, for that position for 1 month that could qualify. So you're not going to get as much as you would really need, all right? On the other side, if Sarah, the receptionist, was working there up until January, and then you had to let Sarah go, or Sarah had to leave, and you brought somebody new in, right, to replace that person, right? At that point, that new person, that's still covered because you were paying for Sarah that entire time. So this new person that steps into this position, John, who's now fulfilled the receptionist position, is going to be able to be paid for, not because it's John, not because it's Sarah, but because you were paying for that position during the last 12 months. All right. So that's what you're going to be able to do underneath this. Let's talk about a couple limitations on this. All right. One, you can only ask for a maximum of $10 million. I know, breaking the bank on you, I'm sorry. But you can only ask for a max of $10 million, and there's going to be 4 main requirements that you have to talk to. Listen, banks should be handing out this money. They give you trouble, you might just want to move to that new bank, all right? Because there's only really 4 things that they're going to ask you about. One, are you actually in an economic troubling situation? Which most businesses around here are gonna fit that. And the second thing, do you have employees? Right? Do you have actually a payroll cost? Because again, when I talked about what is considered to qualify, that step 1, what can I qualify for? That's going to be under payroll. Payroll costs due. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what payroll costs include, so stick around for that part. But do you have payroll? Were you paying people paychecks? Right? If so, then that's going to give them the amount that you can actually qualify for. If you weren't paying anybody, then that's going to be a problem for you to be able to qualify. Yes, you can spend that money on things other than just payroll that still qualify, but the amount that you can get is only based on payroll. I know it's confusing in that way. That's why we broke them down into those 2 separate steps. All right. The third thing that they're going to ask you about is that you're actually going to pay your employees or the people who were qualified underneath the paycheck. Right. That right there is that so we are in economic troubling situation. We do have people that we're paying, and we're actually going to pay them. Right. If you don't, right, it becomes a loan that's not forgivable. But the whole point of this is to help people stay employed, to help businesses continue to be able to move forward. Right. It's not going to be everything that you need, but it's here to help. The fourth thing that they're going to talk about, all right, you're in economic trouble, you have people that you're paying, you're actually going to pay them, and anything that you don't pay back to them, but you have spent on business expenses, you're going to pay that back as a loan. All right, you're just agreeing to those main things, and at that point, then the bank should give you the money based off of the amount that you qualify for. All right. The next question that somebody asked is the application already established for the payroll loan program? Basically, they're asking, Is the PPP already going? No, not yet. I was calling banks on Friday after the president signed the bill. Once it became law, I was asking these banks, hey, do you know what the process is for this? I was actually ahead of some of those banks. I was talking with the banks, and they were just getting the emails in saying that this would be run through the banks, because some of them were getting confused with the SBA economic injury disaster loans. Again, that's not what we're talking about. If you've already started the process with the bank or through the SBA online portal, you are not talking about the payroll protection plan. You're not talking about PPP. You're talking about these loans that have a great interest rate, 3.75% for for-profit businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits, and over a 30-year term. That's a great loan. It really is. But it comes with the ties of you have to pledge any collateral if you're doing over $25,000. Right? You have to submit 3 years of your personal tax returns. If you have access to capital elsewhere, you're gonna have to do that. All right, so you're gonna so you're gonna have to watch out for that. Just saw a comment, just looking at it. So you're gonna have to take care of that under the SBA economic injury disaster loans. So they're not as easy to get because not just being handed out, and they come with strings. Rather, the PPP, what is just passed on Friday, all those strings are cut off. Like I said, no collateral, no personal guarantee. If you spend it on these qualified expenses, then at that point it's completely forgiven. Free money in that, so that your business can continue to function. Right? And again, the concept is it's not completely free money. The concept is that you're continuing to pay for your employees. And you can pay for rent and you can pay for utilities so that your business can continue to function. But once again, that's not built into the amount that you actually can qualify for. Angie, thank you for asking the question. Does the PPP have credit score requirements? No. They took out credit worthiness, right? The SBA economic disaster injury loans, injury disaster loans, those do. The PPP does not. They take out the credit worthiness, they take out collateral, they take out the personal guarantee. This should be banks pretty much handing out the money. If you run into a problem with your bank, you might want to get to a new bank. Again, these banks need a minute to get on board with this, but we're expecting on Monday for the banks to start picking this up and run with it because the law has been passed. And like I said, I started calling them to get this list going so that we know which banks are going to be really hitting the ground and run with this as much as possible. All right, and I'm going to be staying up to date with all of you for what banks you should be working through on that. But in the meantime, let's keep moving through some of the other questions that I've gotten. Do self-employed or sole proprietors qualify for the PPP? All right. Yes, owners qualify. Payroll costs include employee salary, wages and commissions, payment of cash tips, payment of vacation. I'm reading text that comes out of the bill, right? That came out of the law itself. It's no longer a bill, it's a law now. I'm reading out of the law, all right? That said that parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowances for dismissal or separation, group health benefits, payment of retirement benefits, state or local tax assessed on employee compensation, and sole proprietor income or independent contractor compensation, so long as it's not in excess of $100,000. All right, you can't pay yourself over $100,000. You can go up to that cap, but no more over that. So Angie, you asked what happens if you have laid off employees already? Okay, fantastic question. There are provisions that are built in to help if you've laid them off because of what's been going on. The current crisis has said that, you know what, I need to lay this person off. You can get compensated for bringing them back on, right? Again, and this is earlier in the video, but I'm going to recount on it. I'm going to rehash it just for a minute. All right, let's say that when you've gone through calculating how much you qualify for, you're going to take the past 12 months of payroll. So if you laid this person off just a couple months ago, they're going to be compensated for most of that compensation. All right, for that past 12 months where you're saying, all right, what have I paid out in payroll and payroll related costs? This includes taxes, payroll taxes, health insurance, matching programs. Let's look over the past 12 months. All right, then we're going to divide that by 12 to get a monthly average. Take that number, multiply it by 2.5, and you get the amount that you can qualify for, which means if you've laid off that employee already, but they're going to be counted for most of that. even if you've replaced that employee. Again, you were paying over that time. So if you were paying over that time, then you're going to be able to be compensated for that because it's going to be built in the past 12 months. So this is built to help bring back those employees. All right, so that you can continue to pay for these employees. That is a big motivation for why they want to have these funds so easily available, is so that you can get those funds in 1 to 3 days and be able to start paying your employees, even the ones that you've laid off, bring them back on so you can pay for them. All right, even yourself, if you're on payroll, you can pay yourself to make sure that you're being compensated. Again, there's caps. Can't pay yourself over 100K over the past 12 months. You're not going to get compensated for over that. So some of the payroll cost exclusions. Let's talk about some things that are not considered in this. Again, over the $100,000, you're not going to get paid for that. Federal employment taxes imposed or withheld taxes, that's not considered as part of this. There are other tax programs that are underneath the bill. I'm not going to go into them today, but there are parts that are going to help with delaying those taxes. You still owe your taxes, but they're going to be pushed off, and late penalties are going to be waived on some of that. All right. The compensation to employee whose principal residence is outside the United States. If you're paying people outside the United States, again, they're here. The point of this is to help United States citizens that are here or that are residents in United States. It's to help them get paid. All right, that's an important part of this. Remember the motivation behind it, and some of this stuff makes sense about how they're moving forward with this. All right, qualified sick leave for a credit is allowed underneath the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. All right, if you already got money for this, either under the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loans, or you got money underneath the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, if you got money already for this, then you can't get money again for it. All right, so the PPP cuts that part out, which again, I think is relatively fair. But all right, that right there, I'm going to be posting in the comments a blog that talks about all the things that we're talking about here. If you have any other questions, let me know. Feel free to comment below. Feel free to comment on our blogs. It's going to be at ccsklaw.com. You'll see our blogs right up at the top. Feel free to jump on there and ask us any questions that you have. If you send us an email or you give us a phone call, we're not going to hit the clock and start billing you. That's not how we function around CCSK. We give free initial consultations. We're here for the community, especially during this time, to answer whatever questions you have. All right. So many attorneys out there. You're just, as soon as they want to talk with you want to talk with them, they're going to start hitting the clock. That's not how we work. All right. We give that free initial consultation because we want an open channel of communication. You will always know when you're being billed. At CCSK Law, we are here to try to provide as much help as possible during this time and answer these questions. We're going to continue to give updates. I'm going to keep jumping on and giving these types of Facebook Live updates and letting people know. This is going to be on LinkedIn and YouTube, putting this information out as much as possible. Next week, we're going to be looking to hold a webinar that gives a lot more detailed information about this, more information coming about that. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, comment below, or feel free to visit us at ccsklaw.com or email me at isaac@ccsklaw.com. Thank you.